The Earth is our home, the only one we have, so we need to take care of it. We need clean water to drink and clean air to breathe, because a sick environment will make us sick. There's a lot of work to be done, and it's time to get going. I'm Herb Weisbaum, and this is the Consumerman Show on LifeSmarts.org.
The Consumerman Show is brought to you by the good folks at Credit.com. Credit.com, a place to comparison shop for credit cards and get your credit score absolutely free every 30 days, plus expert advice on a variety of financial topics. Now, here's America's consumer expert and the national quizmaster for Life Smarts, the Consumerman Herb Weisbaum.
Let's talk about the environment and the ways you can help protect it. We need to use fewer resources, to produce less trash, to heal the damage already done to the environment. It's a big job, but we can do it if we all work together. Stephen Porter is a professor at Brown University in Rhode Island. He teaches about the environment, and he wants you to know why you should care about it.
Well, I think the best answer to that question is that we're living in a rapidly changing world, and those changes are only going to accelerate. What does that mean for teens today? It means that our food production is going to be massively challenged in the coming decades. All over the world, our crops are going to need to be grown in different places, going to need to be grown in different ways. If you live in the West, where snowpack in the mountains is what provides a lot of your drinking water, that's going to change dramatically. By some estimates, by the time today's teens are elderly, the snowpack in the Sierra Nevada mountains of California is going to drop by almost 90%. That means way less water, both for food production on farms, but also for drinking. And so these are big changes that today's teens are going to see in their lifetimes. And so what they do today and the pressures that they can bring to bear on people who make policy today and the policies that they themselves make in just a few years is going to have a dramatic impact on the world that they live in.
So based on what you just said, is there anything that teens can do, that any individual can do, that will really make a difference? In other words, switching to more energy-efficient light bulbs or recycling rather than throwing things in the trash. Will that really change things for the better?
There are two answers to that question. One is that anything that one individual does can only have a limited impact. That's a sad but true fact. On the other hand, individual impacts can multiply very quickly and in ways that you don't necessarily expect. And in terms of what a teenager or anyone else could do right now, there are very simple commitments one could make that can make a big difference. So, for example, you could commit to taking 50% of the trips that you take within a mile of your house, doing that either on foot or by bicycle, rather than using a car, rather than asking your parents to drive you, walk or bike. You could eat less meat. You don't have to be a vegetarian, but for every little bit of less meat that you eat, that's less beef production, that's fewer greenhouse gas emissions, less of a changing climate. So there are things that you can do that are within the reach of anybody. So on the one hand, one person is not going to solve this problem. On the other hand, that's not an excuse for inaction.
And one thing we can do is look for that Energy Star logo when we buy things like electronic products or appliances.
Absolutely. And things like TVs are already rated by Energy Star, and as kids get older and start buying things like home appliances, those almost all are. And that can really save you an enormous amount of money without costing you a lot up front. It can save you a lot of money on energy bills down the road and also be good for the environment.
One thing we want to watch out for is something called greenwashing, where a company makes a product sound more environmentally friendly than it really is. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Companies have realized that they can charge a premium for things that are labeled as green, and that oftentimes the first thing they do is they label it as green or environmentally friendly, even if it isn't, because there are very lax laws in terms of how stuff is labeled.
And there's another problem. Some products, and this is especially true with certain kinds of plastic, say recyclable on the label, which may be technically true, but those products can't be recycled yet in the community where you live, so they're going to go to the landfill.
It's a big problem. For example, in my community in Rhode Island, there are several things that could be recycled somewhere but aren't recyclable where I live. And this is another area where consumer awareness is really important. We need to be pushing for much bigger recycling programs than we currently have in most U.S. cities. And a lot of the world is out in front of us on this, and we should play some really quick catch-up.
Recycling is great, but it's always better if you don't have to throw something away or recycle it in the first place. Should the kids be looking for products that have minimal packaging? The less packaging, the better?
Absolutely. And, again, the U.S. is behind on this. There are, in Europe in particular, companies are required to pay for the disposal of their packaging, and what do you know? They use much less packaging. So hopefully that's a trend that kids can encourage with their purchases now and in the future.
Professor Porter, thank you so much for spending time with us.
My pleasure.
Fast fact. The average person generates 600 times their weight in garbage during their lifetime. That's a lot of trash that has to go someplace.
You know, going green doesn't have to mean making radical changes to your lifestyle. There are all sorts of simple things you can do that we can all do that will make a difference. Here are just 10. Don't let the water run while you're brushing your teeth. This can save several gallons of water each day. Set your printer to print on both sides of the paper. That saves money and trees. Recycle your old electronics. Don't throw them in the trash. They're made with toxic materials, and we don't want those dangerous chemicals getting in our drinking water. Keep the tires on your car properly inflated. It's a lot safer, and you'll use less gas. Just check them once a month. Use the cold cycle on the washing machine. That saves energy, and your clothes will get just as clean. Buy local, food from local farmers and companies. It's fresher and less energy is needed to get it to your neighborhood supermarket. Take shorter showers, less water and less energy to heat that water. Always recycle your aluminum cans. It takes a lot less energy to make that old can into a new one than start from scratch. Don't pre-rinse dishes going into the dishwasher. That wastes water and won't get them any cleaner. And skip the bottled water and get a refillable bottle instead. In most parts of the country, old plastic water bottles can't be recycled, so they go to the landfill. By the way, being environmentally friendly doesn't have to cost you any money. In fact, it could save you a lot. A key aspect of being green is to use fewer resources, especially energy. Gas and electricity cost a lot of money. Use less, pay less. It's really that simple. Well, that's this edition of the Consumer Man Show. Thank you for listening. I hope you'll share this with your friends. You can find me, Herb Weisbaum, online 24/7 at my website, consumerman.com. And don't forget to join the competition and use the free study resources at lifesmarts.org.
The Consumerman Show is brought to you by the good folks at Credit.com, a place to comparison shop for credit cards and get your credit score absolutely free every 30 days, plus expert advice on a variety of financial topics. This is LifeSmarts.org. LifeSmarts.org, a service of the National Consumers League. LifeSmarts. Learn it, live it.